Well, it is 6:30 according to my clock, and I thank you all for joining us tonight. This is a monthly Zoom in with Daniel Root that I try to do every third Tuesday of the month. We do this at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then these are recorded for the YouTube channel, and we do share the link. So, and I'm glad to see we do have a large group of people here that are new to this show. So if you guys know how to raise your hand using the the Zoom, please feel free to, but you can just unmute and let's chat. What do you have questions you'd like to have me answer?
Hey, Dan, this is Debbie. I'll start. I would like, I think there are several people I see, the names I recognize from the GAD group. So thanks everybody who came that's from the GAD group. I know I'm in and out of that group a lot lately, but I guess one of the things I'd like to understand and have people on the phone understand is that we have seen, and maybe you're going to get into that detail, but how we have proven that this protocol does grab gadolinium and help remove it from the body. So if you're not including that, please do, but I'm pretty sure you will. So
I think what I should do is probably go ahead and explain how this protocol works for the people who are new to this, because niacin exercise and sauna sounds real simple, but it's actually a very complex method that works very effectively at detoxing heavy metals, man-made chemicals, and even radiation. And it has to be timed and dosed correctly when you take the niacin, and all the elements work synergistically together. So it's important for people to really have a good understanding of how this program works. So I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share and walk you through the mechanics of this program, because it is extremely powerful when done correctly. So let me just go ahead and get the screen share happening here. Okay, I'm going to trust that everybody can see this now on the screen. And what you're seeing here is a glucose study that was done on women back in 2000 by Wang et al. And it had really nothing to do with our program, but it's one of 3 studies that demonstrate what I'm about to explain to you. So the study group was both the control group and the study group, and these women were given niacin in order to temporarily increase glucose levels for whatever they were studying. But this is important to understand that the process you're seeing here is called lipolysis, and lipolysis is the breakdown of the triglycerides in fat cells to create a glycerol and 3 fatty acids per triglyceride. And what that does is it helps mitochondria to produce ATP, or adenosine triphosphate energy. So the production of the energy in your body starts with the breakdown of triglycerides, and that process is called lipolysis. So over a 6-hour period with measurements taken every half hour, you can see that the control group was pretty flatlined through this 6-hour period. And the free fatty acid concentrations in the blood were kind of low, but they're showing a few peaks here. And wherever there's a peak, they're doing something a little bit more active, maybe walking or doing something that just requires more energy. Now, you need to know that whenever your body's producing energy, ATP energy, the free fatty acids are leaving the fat cells to go populate other cells that are not necessarily fat cells, to help them to produce ATP energy through their mitochondria. So there's always going to be some substances with the free fatty acids leaving the fat cells. Think of it as a siphoning effect. So any lipophilic xenobiotics, or fat attracted or fat soluble heavy metals or man-made chemicals that are foreign to the body, are going to also start to trickle out, if you will, through this siphoning effect. So you're always having stuff basically liberating from fat and redistributing, because there's nothing going on to handle them. So that includes gadolinium. Now, the niacin, on the other hand, has this secondary effect over the flush. Everybody's so used to the flush with niacin, and that's what we thought was the reason for the niacin early on. However, we realized back in 1986, roughly, that there is this rebound effect, which is a secondary effect, and it is called rebound. And I'll explain in just a second. But the reality is that there is a secondary effect that was actually more important for our detox program. And so here's how it works. When somebody is given niacin, there is a temporary but very obvious depressed state or inhibited state of the ability for the body to produce ATP energy while the niacin is metabolizing. Niacin has a half-life of 20 to 40 minutes. It takes 5.5 half-lives, which works out to about 3 hours before, or 2.5 to 3 hours before it starts to come back to a normal level of lipolysis where the body's able to resume the normal practice of producing energy, but it will invariably overshoot. So what you're seeing here is called rebound lipolysis, and it's about 4 times normal levels of free fatty acids that are measurable in the blood plasma. And also that translates to about 3 times the liberation of xenobiotics from fat. And this is what we exploit for our detox program. In fact, we actually do the exercise right about at the peak, and then that's 20 to 30 minutes of low impact aerobic exercise, followed by sauna time. Now, the sauna time in an infrared is about 75 total minutes, which is broken down into a 45-minute cycle, followed by a close to 15-minute break, 5 to 15 minutes. And then you go back in for another 30 minutes. And during that time, you're staying hydrated. We're doing electrolytes. We're providing a beverage called CalMag, which is a calcium and magnesium beverage that is very important for both muscle, preventing the muscle spasms, cramping, and twitching, as well as it's good for the bones. Most people don't realize that both calcium and magnesium are needed for the bones, and especially with gadolinium toxicity, the gadolinium will store in the bone. Some of it's in adipose marrow tissues, but the calcium in the CalMag beverage we offer is going to help displace some of the gadolinium and lead that's stored in bone. So once a person starts our program, there's a lot of moving parts to it. There's going to be electrolytes, CalMag. We've got oils and lecithin, they're essential fatty acids. The lecithin is there to break down the oils. It's also a primary source of choline, which is a cell membrane improver. So it's going to allow the cells to be able to release toxins more efficiently. And also for people who are concerned about undermethylation, who may be concerned with niacin being a methyl sponge, the choline is a methyl donor, so they wash out. It balances out. But the program is basically now down to 2 hours, whereas in the past it used to be this 4 hour or this full 4.5 hours here to 5 hours. You would do 20 to 30 minutes of exercise early on, and then the rest of the time you'd be in and out of a dry sauna. So we now know that the far infrared saunas do much better at detoxing. And also in the past, we weren't using binders, but now that we've added zeolite and activated charcoal, we've made a huge improvement to the efficacy and the user experience. We know that zeolite is the best binder for the gadolinium. In fact, we know this because there's a product called Gadolite. And Gadolite is an oral suspension for MRIs when they do a intestinal tract type of MRI, or the gut or the intestines. So the Gadolite is a material that is gadolinium chelated to zeolite, and the animal studies have shown zero retention in the body. So this is a safe form of a contrast agent. However, it's only good for the GI tract, apparently. Now, the proof there that gadolinium and zeolite are the best, or zeolite's the best binder for gadolinium is apparent from that. But we also know that the zeolite that we recommend, which is the hyaltrophin brand, is going to actually help with the villi in the small intestine. It's going to be able to capture, it's going to help improve your body's ability to absorb nutrients from the food that you eat, but also there's evidence that the zeolite is able to chelate blood passing through these little finger-like protrusions that have the blood flowing through, where your nutrients are absorbed into that blood through the villi. So the zeolite's actually down there helping to chelate that and improving your body's ability to absorb nutrients. So I hope this explains well enough how the program actually works scientifically. And there's a better explanation of this on our website at getdetoxinated.com. And if you go to the page on Detoxination, which is literally the first choice in the menu option under info, you'll see that there's also a video that's a 48-minute video. If you haven't already watched, it's worth going ahead and watching that video. So with that said, let's get back to your questions.
I have a question about binders for mold. Some practitioners claim that only okra and a prescription binder, cholestyramine, are negatively charged and are able to bind the mycotoxins.
Yeah, you must be the person. You must be the person that posted that to the group. Did you see my response to that?
Oh, I didn't see. Sorry, I'll go check.
Yeah, that's great. No worries. So yes, I did respond to that because, frankly, I was shocked to hear that they think that okra is a negatively charged binder, and in fact, it's really a fiber, and it can do some, detoxing, if you will, but it's not a very strong binder. In fact, the cholesterol word I hate saying, but the cholestyramine is something that is prescription based. And it is also something that is used as a cholesterol medication, and it does affect the bile. So the bile acids are deleteriously affected by it. And so I'm not a huge fan of that one. And when it comes to being able to detox mycotoxins, which is what I know you're asking about, the binders that I would recommend you use are bentonite clay and activated charcoal. Those are definitely ones that are safe and have effects with these mycotoxins. I hope that helped.
Thank you so much. Yes, that helped.
Okay, great. In fact, the answer is, like I said, written in the group there, so you're welcome to look at that.
I'll check it out. Thanks.
Yeah. Who's got their hand up? Oh, hi. Is that Naomi?
Hello.
Hi there.
Pardon me. Some of they have some speech impairment since this has happened. So pardon for the.
No worries.
I do have a question. I have a gene mutation, and I know that many have actually mentioned this as well. I have MTHFR. It's methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase.
Sure.
And it affects your B vitamin levels. Would you suggest the program would still be something beneficial, just maybe additionally making sure there's added B vitamins with that niacin to supplement for what is being natural or being binded and chelated?
Yeah, so the MTHFR gene variations are something that we have dealt with quite a bit, and mostly in the like just within the last maybe 5 or 6 years. It never was a problem prior to that. And in fact, I do question whether or not it is a end product of the Human Genome Project. I find that the MTHFR gene variations have more of a concern with methylation and undermethylators. The concern would be those who are considered undermethylators. And the reason for the concern would be more about the niacin being what's considered as a methyl sponge. And because we've never had a problem with undermethylation or MTHFR, the reason that we can identify is because we introduce lecithin into the protocol. And lecithin is a primary source of choline, which is a methyl donor. So they kind of wash each other out. And yes, the B vitamins are also included, but we don't particularly work with the methylated versions of the vitamins. In fact, if you feel like you need to, by all means, do so. But with the MTHFR gene variations and undermethylation, there's never been a problem with that on this program.
Thank you so much for that. I'm sure many of us will be able to utilize that information.
Absolutely. Yes. It's something that we're very familiar with, but it's a case of nobody's ever really had a problem with it. Especially, one thing I should say that let's be clear about is our program, the book that I published, is a one size fits all approach, just to let people know that there is a protocol out there that is more capable of detoxing than anything else out there, because there's nothing in the medical literature on how to detox chemicals or even radiation. Now, we do heavy metals, chemicals, radiation, and it essentially is the only thing that is that broad spectrum, to steal from Monsanto. But the reason is because if it's stored in fat, we're able to get to it. And, with the bones, you have adipose marrow tissues, and the brain has adipose brain tissues. So, the way that this rebound lipolysis works is it actually affects these, fat tissues. And it is something that is clinically proven over 36 years of our occupational medicine practice. So we started out back in 1982 working with this program and developing it. And in fact, in 2014 was when we really started the major advancements on this program. Things like understanding better the rebound lipolysis, which we used to think occurred within 50 minutes of ingesting niacin. But what it turned out to be was the study we were basing that on was done on sheep. And apparently humans metabolize the niacin in about 3 hours. And that was a huge shift, because the original program used to take 4.5 to 5 hours. It'd be 20 to 30 minutes of exercise, and then the rest of the time you were in and out of a dry sauna. So you did a lot of sauna time on the original version of this program. What we found, though, is that the infrared saunas do a much more effective job of producing the sebaceous sweat. It's a case of the dry saunas are so oppressively hot that a person literally can only be in them for about 15 to 20 minutes before they have to cool down. So there's repeated cycles of heating and cooling, heating and cooling, heating and cooling. And eventually you'll build up the core body temperature to the point where the sebaceous sweat will occur. But with an infrared sauna, you can be in it for much longer periods of time. And in fact, we do recommend a total of 75 minutes, but the temperatures are much lower. It's not about the heat, because the dry sauna, the original Finnish saunas, they relied on convection to heat the air and then conduction to heat the body. But with the infrared saunas, it's all about these infrared emitters that are going to resonate with the water molecules under your skin, and they're going to cause a vibrational heat, which produces the sebaceous sweat at lower temperatures, and you can stand to be in them for a lot longer periods of time. So with the infrared sauna, that was a second major advancement to this program. The third one was adding the binders. So imagine going 4.5 to 5 hours a day and literally not having any binders to help mop up anything that's going to be, still flowing around through the blood and through the gut and all that. So it was a huge shift when we went with the binders. And I'm all about trying to make the protocol much more user-friendly, if you will, definitely much more effective. But thanks to Marcia Sabal, I was able to make the gadolinium toxic people and have a much better experience with this, because the inflammation that, the flare-ups, that kind of thing that can happen with gadolinium is something that by using the ginger root tea or the turmeric tea, which are anti-inflammatories, natural ones, we were able to help with that aspect of it. And then secondly, we know that gadolinium is a calcium channel blocker. So she had me start to recommend the D3 and K2 blends to help with the calcium absorption. So that was another wonderful change. And in fact, her suggestions made it into the second edition of my book. So the program has definitely come a long way for being able to work with any kind of toxin. But with gadolinium, we've been dealing with a lot of people who have had that toxicity, and I really, really understand the problem. And I'm sure that many of you have been just feeling totally betrayed, angry about the system, and sometimes feeling like there's no hope. But believe it or not, this program is actually really doing a wonderful job of helping people. It's not a one and done. You got to do it multiple times, but it's worth it. And in fact, if you can do the DIY sauna and do the protocol for less than $1,000, it's the cheapest way you're going to be able to help detox this gadolinium. Now, my remote coaching that I do to help people that, because the book is designed for one and done, but most people I work with, they really do need to be, guided through the program and have somebody they can have questions answered and things like that. But my coaching deal is every time you do the program, I'll be your coach. So I only charge the one-time fee and then work with you every time. So I hope I answered the question. All right. So do we have any other questions?
Does anybody have any questions about what some of your worst symptoms are and maybe what some of Dan's clients have seen with their symptoms and what they got relief from, or how the gadolinium is, how we're measuring the gadolinium when it gets out of the body. I mean, I know they're using stool and urine, I believe, reports, and that's where, and Marcia did try to join. She couldn't get the link to work for her. I resent it to her. I don't know if she'll get it to work or not, but she did.
Okay, thank you.
Post that
Yeah, I
she
don't
did
see her.
try.
Okay.
So yeah, but yeah, anybody, I mean, this is a great time to ask questions to Dan because he's got a lot of expertise, and we have seen it in the group where I know Marcia was not the only one. There was a gal named Laura who did a couple rounds and she felt better for a while. And I mean, I'm not sure that anything is a cure-all for GAD poisoning, but if you can get back on with your life and get some of the toxicity out and unburden the body, a lot of times the symptoms go away and you can get back living life, and that's the goal, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah, let's go ahead and touch upon the testing. So be aware that things that are like the urine and stool tests are testing for what the body's eliminating. And it's important to recognize that in the initial stages of a program like ours, remember, I'm going to tell you to probably do this program 3 or 4 times if you even had just one gadolinium injection. The initial stages of this program, you will see actually an increase in the amount of the like gadolinium being excreted from your system or eliminated through your urine. And it can be shocking because you want to see it go lower. It's after you do multiple rounds that then it starts to come down. One thing that's important to also recognize with our program is that by going through this program, you're actually resetting your metabolism and your body's better able to handle toxins. So we have seen studies, we've done studies actually, where the chemicals we were testing after a 30-day program, we could plot that, you know, they were coming down rapidly during the 30-day program, and then 4 months later tested again, and they were still coming down and actually coming down to pretty zero line levels. You know, it was incredible to see after 4 months that they were still coming down. So the thing this program is good for is getting the body able to better deal with toxins. I should also tell you that the liver has never fully adapted to the man-made chemicals. So for the most part, you know, synthetic chemicals that are used in products, you know, industry uses them, and they're in the food, the water, and things like that. These man-made chemicals are really nothing that the liver is able to break down. Some of them it can, but the medical world still thinks that the liver is able to process, you know, most everything, and it's not true. We've seen it for literally decades. So the fact that this program is able to liberate these fat stored toxins, which the liver basically rejects the toxins and then they sequester in fat because they're lipophilic or fat attracted. So the program liberates these toxins as the rebound occurs, the rebound lipolysis. And so it's the most effective way to actually detox the body. There's nothing else out there that can do this. And the beauty is that combined with the binders and the exercise and things like that, because exercise is also another good way to get toxins to sweat out. That there's studies that show that exercise is almost as good, if not as good, as sauna sweat. But it's, in our case, used for mobilizing the liberated toxins out to the dermal layers to get them to be sweated out. But it's a well-conceived program that has been used clinically, and also it's been studied in at least, I think, 15 studies at this point, and even cited in several other studies, as well as it's been used in an allergy medical textbook. So it is very powerful. So any other questions? Okay, so I will say that this program has really been, I think, amazing for people like Marcia, and I was hoping that she would be able to join us today, and I'm not seeing her in the group, but her story is absolutely incredible. If you all don't really know Marcia's story, she was, I think, over a course of 8 years, injected with 32 gadolinium IVs. And at the time that I first heard about her, she was disabled and basically bedridden, and her quality of life was basically gone. And I remember when I first heard about her, she was, I think, commenting on probably the MRI group that she was dabbling with the program, with my program, and not getting the kind of results she needed. And when I saw that, I really wanted to reach out to her and see if I could maybe help with her program. And so we started working together several years ago, and she's now done the program under my guidance for at least 4 times under my guidance. I know she's done it another time after that, but each time she's gotten so much better. And I watch her videos because we're friends on Facebook, and she's dancing with her little, I think, cockatiel or cockatoo. I can't tell the difference, but her quality of life is so much better. She does have damage from other things that probably will not fully resolve. I think she has some kind of radiation burn. But her story is one that is just remarkable, inspiring, and provides hope, I know, for others. And it would have been nicer if she could have told her story, but I'm still not seeing her in the group. So anyway, but Marcia is somebody that I've had my clients reach out to if they need to have questions answered, and she seems to be pretty open to talking about her story and giving advice. If you didn't know, she is or was a nurse, and so she has a lot of wisdom and experience with things. So she's somebody you might want to talk with.
And I think the thing about Marcia is she was in the GAD group for years, in the GAD support group and research group, and she was in there for years. And I don't want to speak about someone when they're not here to talk about themselves, but she did leave the group. I mean, she started to feel so much better, and she's like, I just got to get on with my life, and I'm just going to enjoy life, and da 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 da. And she actually, not too long ago, left the GAD group. And of course, we wished her well. We were celebrating her successes and all of that. So I think, I just mentioned that because I do want to give people, if you're on the phone and you are here because of gadolinium poisoning, I want to give you some hope that, there is a way to get past some of the pain and some of the symptoms and get on with life. So Marcia's a testament to that. And that's the thing about, if you are in the GAD group or you join the GAD group after this call, is that there are a lot of poisoned people out there, and they're in the group for a reason. And once people heal, they tend to leave the group. And so then people join the group and they're like, where are all these testimonies? Well, the people have left and gotten on with their life, closed their gadolinium chapter and gone on. And Marcia was one of those people after doing Dan's protocol for several times. So, and like Dan said, you'd want to follow up with her, but definitely.
Yeah, and one way to do that would be to join my group if you haven't already, because I run the Sauna Detoxification Using Niacin group. In fact, let's see, does he have his book handy? Yes, I do. So this is my book, and the name of the group is the same, Sauna Detoxification Using Niacin. So, and this, again, is a one-size-fits-all book, but for many people, especially those with gadolinium toxicity, it's better to work with me. I used to have a center. After COVID hit and our lease expired, we decided we wouldn't renew it. And now I do everything remotely from here. So I also do have a training program for people who want to do what I do. I'm what's called a detoxination, and I am the senior detoxination. And so I have a program where I train others. And what I'm finding really amazing about this training program is I'm getting doctors, and not just holistic or functional medicine doctors. I'm getting MDs who are, I think, feeling really frustrated and disgruntled with the medical industrial complex. And they are looking for ways to actually help patients. And so they are enrolling in my tutorial course, or my training course. And it's very interesting to see the shift that's going on in the world.
So Dan, I just wanted to say I'm here too, Kirsten.
Hey, Kirsten, I saw your chat. Thank you.
I'm a big fan. Dan's wonderful to work with, and I can't believe the reduction in pain that I've gotten over the last three months, 3 rounds of this protocol. And I've been looking for an answer for my pain for 15 years, and I had very high gadolinium readings on a test in 2014, but no practitioner ever drew a line between those readings and all the pain and disability that I had. And now I know, eventually I figured out it was heavy metals, including that one that was probably underlying the pain. But I then didn't have an answer to how to get rid of it until I tried this protocol. And I have done everything under the sun. And this was the first thing that has really worked in a profound way. So I've gone from about a 10 out of 10 on pain to about a 3.
Wow, that is a huge reduction in pain.
Yeah. So I just want to say it because we have to help each other, right? We have to be inspiring for each other. And I know so many people encouraged me along the way, but I'm just here to say that this is amazing. And I had done everything and it didn't work.
Thank you for sharing that. When we did have a center, because costs were so high, our actual fee for a 30-day program was $6,300 at one time. Of course, when COVID hit, we knocked that off by about a 25% discount. But anyway, the thing about that was that I was not happy charging $6,300 when I know that somebody's going to need to do the protocol more than once. And then on top of that, a person could easily buy a sauna and have it at home and do the program as many times as they need in the comfort of their own home. And with my coaching, you wouldn't have come close to $6,300, depending on the sauna, of course. But anyway, the thing is that in good conscience, it was a hard thing for me to sell. And, I'm really not about the money. I'm really more about seeing this program help as many people as possible. And it does help me too, because we're trying to get this out there. This program has been in an occupational setting for over 36 years. And we only brought it to the public in 2019. And then guess what happened? COVID hit. So we were basically not able to really get the word out about this. And all I want to do is get more people aware of this program. Because when my father retired in 2019, this thing could have died on the shelf. I mean, it could have died on the vine. It was literally, there's nobody else that are doing it the way we are. Is that a question I see coming in?
Hello.
Hi, Casey.
I have a question.
Mhm.
I was wondering, what are your tips or advice for a dry sauna?
A dry sauna, really? Okay. Well, there are several companies that produce indoor and outdoor saunas for the dry saunas. I will tell you that, frankly, they will be, if you're trying to use it for detox, it will be a much longer process. The average person will wind up doing about 6 sauna cycles of about 15 to 20 minutes apiece. So it is something just to be aware of, that it's going to add more time to a program like ours. But if you want it because you like the yule, that's that steam that comes off when you throw the water on the rock, that's fine. I grew up with dry saunas. I've had a sauna in my life since 1973. So we've always appreciated it, and we lived in Europe for 6 years, and certainly saw how the Finnish and the Scandinavian countries love to sauna, and essentially dry saunas were the way we went for 36 years in occupational medicine. So it does work; it just takes longer. But
Right.
there are barrel sauna manufacturers, and then there are hybrid sauna manufacturers. In fact, Heavenly Heat does make a sauna that is a dry sauna with the infrared panels. Now, as I understand it, you can't use them both at the same time. It's one or the other, but you do have the option of having both. So that might be something to look into, Heavenly Heat.
Okay. Yeah, it's been about a month since I've gotten my injection.
Okay.
And ever since then, I've just been going to the gym because that's where the dry sauna is.
Okay.
So I try to exercise first just to get the blood flowing, and I do sweat a little bit, but the sauna is where I sweat a lot.
Great. Do you know what the temperature average is?
I believe it says 180 degrees.
Yeah, that's typical. So 180, and you're able to stay in there for quite some time and get a good sweat going. That's great.
Yeah, for about 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes.
But that would, if you're able to tolerate that, it'll reduce the number of cycles that you'll need to do by probably 2 or 3 even. But the more time you can get, the better. There are studies done by Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt and some others that have shown that the infrared saunas do produce a lot more of the sebaceous sweat, which is going to be how toxins are liberated. So if you are, really thinking about doing this for the detox, I would really, want to steer you towards an infrared. But as far as manufacturers go, there is the one company that I do recommend is Heavenly Heat. And by the way, the reason I do is because from 2002 to 2007, we were running the New York Rescue Workers Detoxification Project, and we were treating over 4,000 first responders, volunteers, and some civilians who are involved in the cleanup efforts at Ground Zero. And every time they'd go to move anything, any debris, they'd raise up another cloud of that toxic dust. And most of the times they weren't really wearing proper personal protective equipment, or if they were, they weren't wearing the right filters for them. So they came down with what's called the World Trade Center cough. And they were definitely getting diseases and all kinds of weird, ailments happening because of their exposures. And after going through the program, they have a much better quality of life. And in fact, there is a video that I recommend people watch. You can get to it from my website, which I did put down in the chat. It's a interview, or I should say it was a podcast with Anne-Marie Principe, and she is an amazing woman who was one of the first civilians to go through the program. She literally was in that cloud that was rolling down the streets of Manhattan on 9/11 and breathed in all of that stuff. And her lungs filled up so rapidly that her doctor basically told her to go home and take care of her affairs because she wasn't going to make it. Well, she did find the detox center, and I think a friend referred her to it. And she wound up going through the program. That's even a long story as far as how they turned her away at first, because they basically were afraid that, it was not going to work for her, and, they had issues. But she managed to meet with my father, and he took her under his wings. But the podcast is the Dr. Daniel Amen Brain Warriors Way, and it's with Anne-Marie Principe, myself, and my father, and Dr. Daniel Amen and his wife, Tana. And that story is worth listening to. But the reason that I'm talking Heavenly Heat is because that was the manufacturer of the saunas that we used back then, and they were the dry saunas.
Okay. I had another question.
Sure.
About the niacin. Is that something that is ingested or?
Yes.
Okay.
And it has to be timed and dosed correctly. You can't just take niacin, do some exercise, and get into a sauna, because you'll get into trouble. And the purpose of the niacin is twofold. The first thing is the flush does have some value, but it's also very unpredictable. So we don't really rely on the flush. That's as of 2014. Back in the 36 years that we were doing this in occupational medicine, it was believed that the flush was the only reason that niacin really was all that important. Although my father, when he got really involved with this, he did discover that the rebound lipolysis was actually, a mobilization of fat. And anytime there's a mobilization of fat, there's a liberation of stored substances from the fat. And unfortunately, that was the study that was done on sheep. And once we discovered that it was, 3 hours in humans, that changed a lot of things. But essentially, the niacin has to be timed for that 3 hours. And you also have to overcome the body's tolerance, the niacin buildup of tolerance, so that we can trigger that rebound. Now, a person who is less than, let's say, 150 is going to, that's pounds, of course, is going to probably need to work up to 500 milligrams for the program to really start. The prior to the 500 milligrams, there's probably not much of a rebound. We do know the studies that show 500 milligrams is the starting point, and it's typically for slider built people. There's one study that we're using as the target niacin dose, which means the dose where we know that you should be hitting that rebound. I call it the target niacin dose, and it's 10 milligrams per kilogram. So you basically take your pound weight, divide that by 2.205, and multiply that value by 10, and that will give you an idea of where you're probably going to actually be doing the rebound. But whenever I am working with a client, I will start them on that 30-day program at the 500 milligrams. I didn't say I start you at 500 milligrams. I start your 30-day counter at 500 milligrams. So that's an important distinction too, because you need to work up to that. And if you've never done niacin, if you've never done the flushing form of niacin, you want to start at 50 milligrams and then work up to 100 and then maybe 200. But if you need to go low and slow, please do, because it's more a case of in the beginning, it's much more obvious the flush will be, in other words. Oh, which, by the way, here's some fun stuff with the niacin. If you've never done flushing niacin before, when you start flushing, I want you to look in the mirror and see, especially with women, to see if you have any past sunburns reappearing. Many times we see where you've had a pattern from a bikini strap that was burnt into your skin as a teenager, maybe. It could reappear. And it will do that maybe once. It shouldn't do it more than once. But the reason for it is because this horny layer of skin, as it's called, doesn't get enough blood flow to really heal fully. And your skin's, it's going to cycle through cells and things like that. But there's still a component that is still damaged. And when you get the vasodilation and you get a lot more oxygenated red blood cells flowing through to the dermis layers, which makes you turn red, the obvious flush, it actually is healing that area. And that's why we only see it one time. So it's kind of a little fun thing to watch for if you've never done niacin before.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for your help.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for asking the question. Anybody else have a question?
I have a quick question. The high trophin zeolites come in percentages, 93%, 94, 95. Is it important to get the highest purity 95?
So the best one is the 3X TMA or tribomechanical activation. It's micronized zeolite or clinoptilolite. And this is from Slovakian ash. I think at this point in time, hyalotropin may not be identifying any further the source of the ash. It's either going to be Norwegian or it's going to be Slovakian. But the higher purity of the zeolite is important, yes. But there's a lot of misinformation about zeolite out there. And in fact, there's a lot of scare tactics going on. Should I explain that?
I remember in other videos or reading about the scam of the water. There is mostly water, and I bought the one that after seeing your videos, I bought the one that you. I think that it's the same, but it says 93.
Yeah, in fact, I think you've got one of the newest labeled jars or tubs that don't really identify where the ash comes from, but that would be the Slovakian ash. Yes.
Yeah, it says Slovakia, and I got it about 10 days ago.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's the right stuff that I prefer because it's got micron sizes of 0.32 to 1.36. And it really does do a good job of interacting with the villi. In fact, I don't even think I mentioned the fact that it's not just possibly or able to chelate the gadolinium flowing through the blood in the villi. It's also going to help your body to be able to absorb nutrients better. So, and also anything in the gut, like pretty much everybody on this planet who's alive today has glyphosate in their gut from Roundup. And, that's, in fact, they tried to do a study and they wanted to have a control group that they could identify that did not have any glyphosate in the system. They couldn't find anybody. So they basically extracted from that information that everybody on this planet is basically toxic with glyphosate. And that's damaging the microbiota or the microbiome. So the zeolite will help pick that stuff up, and any heavy metals from foods you've eaten, it'll pick that up. And it's just an amazing product for detoxing, and we do use a lot of it on the program. I'm talking 3 to 5 teaspoons throughout the day. And these liquid forms of what they call zeolite are essentially maybe a teaspoon of product in that $90 bottle. And so you will not get enough zeolite to handle the quantities of xenobiotics that are released out of fat. So I would not spend any money on that stuff. Excuse me, because a tub like the one I just showed you, we'll probably be able to get 2 people through a 30-day program with that tub. Or I can do 2 30-day programs with 1 tub, but you do go through quite a bit.
And for the bentonite clay, do you recommend the same brand, Ultrofen?
I don't know that they make a bentonite clay. I've never looked to see that. In fact, it's one thing that I stopped using in the center a while back for the reason that activated charcoal and bentonite clay together are going to cause constipation with people. But when I was working with people and I was using bentonite clay, it was during the phase where I was still experimenting with the different binders and learning more about them. And what I found was bentonite clay was more appropriate for things like mold mycotoxins, even Lyme, believe it or not, for the bacteria. But the thing is about it is that I wasn't seeing patients coming in with that. And now that I'm working with patients or clients around the world, that many of them do have mycotoxin, toxicity or biotoxin toxicity, as well as Lyme and things like that. I'm pushing the bentonite clay on those folks because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, that brand does make it, and it comes from Germany.
Oh, okay. Good to know. I've not really looked into their other products because I've just been so hooked on their zeolite.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're very welcome. Anybody else got questions?
Hey, Dan, when you're working with people, one of the things like, what's your recommendation? And maybe it's specific because by the client and what their conditions are and what their root causes are and sources are and stuff. But it's really easy. Like, there's so many supplements out there, so many supplements being pushed. And I don't know. I went through a period of my own time where I was like taking all these supplements and you just get overloaded and you don't really know which is working, which isn't working. So are you in your protocol when you're doing that, are you taking a lot of other things, or are you telling people don't take them, or is it specific to the individual, I guess?
So the protocol does have what I refer to as replenishments over supplements, because on the program, you will sweat out the good stuff with the bad. And it's mostly the minerals. So that's the good news, is that we're more concerned with the minerals than we are with the vitamins. But the fat-soluble vitamins are definitely something to be concerned with. The main minerals, by the way, are the potassium, calcium, magnesium, sodium, and chloride. And most of that is going to be replenished through electrolytes. Also, we have that CalMag beverage I think I mentioned earlier, because the calcium and magnesium will help with displacing gadolinium from bone. And also, of course, it's designed for keeping the muscles from getting too crampy, spasmy, or twitching from extended periods in the sauna. But the vitamins themselves, the original program, I should just give you some backstory here. The original version of the program was designed for drug addiction rehab. And when somebody's high on drugs, they're depleting the B vitamins and they're eating junk food, munchies, right? So they're not eating well. And so the goal there was to keep them nourished while on the program and knowing that they're sweating out the good stuff with the bad. But over time, we have confirmed that the minerals are the main things that we need to replenish. So I don't push heavily on the vitamins, but just know if you are not eating well, eating good food, that you probably need to do the supplementation. But I hope in this day and age, everybody in this group is aware that you've got to be eating organic and you've got to be eating whole foods that are not overcooked, and stop eating the prepackaged, processed, convenience fast foods, and make sure that your diet's very nutritious. By the way, I do have a kit. Sorry to interrupt. I do have a kit that we use for the program, but it's only accessible in the United States. So, in other words, I cannot ship it to other countries, and some countries won't even allow it. But I do have a list of the substitutions that we have even used in the past. So the list of substitutions I make available to people if they don't want to work with a kit.
Very
I have
helpful. Thank you.
I have another question. How strict is the changing of the charge for binders in contact with metals? Specifically, if I put with a plastic spoon some, let's say, bentonite clay on my tongue, and then I drink water from a stainless steel bottle, does it change the charge? Or does it have to be just in contact, the powder, with the stainless steel?
It really has to be in contact, and it sounds to me like it's probably not going to be much. If it is, it's just going to be the outer, layer, if you will, of the bentonite clay. But that does bring up a very good point. Anytime you're working with powdered forms of binders, and this is, you already know this, I can tell, but everybody else needs to hear this. Powdered forms of binders like the zeolite I've been showing you, you do not use metal. It will deactivate the product, but just around where the metal touched. You won't damage the whole product. I had that confirmed by the CEO of the company. But excuse me, the fact of the matter is that metals will deactivate any positive or negatively charged binder, which that does include the zeolite and the bentonite clay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, we're already coming up on an hour, it looks like. So if anybody needs to learn more about the program, definitely look in the chat. The www.getdetoxinated.com is the homepage for our website. And if you play around on there, you'll find that there's a whole science behind this program. That's the next page, if you will. If you look at the bottom of the page, there's a link to the next page. And that will give you the science behind this program. And there's also a 48-minute video I highly encourage you to watch. It's actually, the purpose of that video was that I do so many complimentary consultations, which I should also mention, if you want to have a complimentary consultation with me, I do offer them. All you have to do is go to heal.me/detox. So that's heal.me/detox. And then you'll see my calendar and you'll be able to book a time with me. But essentially, if you go around to the website and you look, there's the 48-minute video, which has basically all the main or the basic questions that I was getting asked during all these complimentary consultations. So I decided to produce a video where I can just explain the basics to everybody so that when you do meet with me, you'll have basically more specific questions that I can answer for you. So thank you all. I really appreciate your time tonight. And I know it's getting late. And I mean, some of you are in the East Coast and some of you, I'm sure, are probably in other countries. But I do really appreciate your time tonight. And I hope you learned something from this. And again, I'm open to complimentary consultations and I look forward to working with you guys. So, all right, take care.
Thanks, Dan. Good night, everyone.